Was he abandoned or just desperately lost? Either way, he was in terrible shape, but he had come to the right place. Don't miss the heartwarming story coming up next. Hello, friends, and welcome to Journeys of Faith. If you like miracle stories, you've come to the right place, because we share amazing stories that will boost your faith in God. Today's story is a different kind of miracle story, but I think you'll enjoy hearing about Midi, the cat who was saved at church. Life can be so unpredictable. You never know when God might send you something very special. For me, that gift came one sunny Sabbath morning, just as I was about to enter my little church in Chula Vista, California. As I approached the main door, I looked back toward the parking lot and something caught my eye. Was that what I thought it was? My curiosity got the better of me, and so I turned and went to investigate. A cat? Yes, it was a cat. But the closer I got, the more concerned I became, for you see, I began to understand that this cat hadn't just wandered over from one of the nearby houses. It looked like this cat had been abandoned. As I got a better look, I could see that he was skin and bones, and his fur was in a pitiful state. He didn't run away, so I reached down and began petting him. Rather than being soft and smooth, his coat was rough, reminding me more of sandpaper. And then there was his tail. It was like a stick with a puff of fur at the end. And as I petted him, I could feel scabs from recent wounds. Had he been in fights with other cats? It seemed likely. But most of all, I could tell he was hungry. How long had it been since he had had a good meal? I didn't have any food with me, but I wondered if maybe he was thirsty. So I quickly went and filled a small container with water and gently lowered it toward my new friend. He acknowledged it, but if he could have talked, I'm sure he would have said, "What about some food?" Not being able to do anything else for the little guy, I turned and made my way into church. As I sat down next to my aunt, I leaned in and quietly told her about what had just happened and how the cat really needed some food. I knew she had a soft spot in her heart for animals, especially cats. What happened next was most unexpected. My aunt reached into her purse and pulled out an egg. Yes, a hard-boiled egg. Why on earth did she have that? Well, apparently she was on a special diet or something and just happened to have an egg in her purse. Well, I knew the cat really needed food, so I quickly took the egg and went back outside, hoping that my new friend hadn't wandered away. And sure enough, he was still there. I went over to him and then knelt down next to an old tree. The cat looked on with interest, and I began cracking the shell of the egg on the bark. As soon as it smelled the egg, he began tearing into it. I hadn't even finished removing the shell, and I was worried that he might swallow some of that. In no time, the egg was gone. It wasn't enough, but at least it was something. Back in church, I considered what else I could do, and then decided that I needed to take him home. He needed somebody to save him, and today, that somebody was me. I still hadn't finished college and was living at home with my folks, so I had a quick conversation with my mom, and she agreed to let me go forward with my rescue plan. After church, I was happy to see the cat was still there, so I placed him in my car and drove home, thinking about how his life was about to change. The first order of business was to get him more food. I managed to get real cat food this time, and soon he was inhaling his delicious meal. It was so satisfying to see him enjoying the food I provided. He was benefiting from it, but in a way, because of his happiness, so was I. But we weren't done yet. This cat was undeniably filthy. With his hunger taken care of, I turned my attention to the next step in his rehabilitation, a much-needed bath. I had heard that cats don't like water, so I prepared for some exciting moments ahead. I brought him into the bathroom, shut the door, and filled the tub with about 3 or 4 inches of water. Then, after adding some soap, I picked him up and hoped for the best. As I gently lowered him into the water, I was amazed that he didn't resist. He seemed to almost understand that I was trying to help him. Encouraged, I started to gently scoop the warm, soapy water over his back, and still he remained calm. Incredibly, I was able to finish washing him without any difficulty at all. You should have seen the water afterwards. It was dirty brown, but the cat was nice and clean. I took him out of the tub, dried him off with a towel, and then placed him in the sun to dry off. The rescue mission was off to a good start. Well, I decided my new friend needed a name. What should I call him? I wanted a name that would specifically connect him with me. And then it came to me. Midi. Yes, Midi the kitty. That would do just fine. Now you're probably asking yourself, where did I get the name Midi from? And how did it have any connection to me? Well, at that time, one of my hobbies was electronic musical instruments. And Midi was a type of interface used to connect a musical keyboard to a computer. So I decided to combine my interest in music and my current interest, which was saving the cat, and that's how he got the name Midi. Well, at some point, my dad came home. He hadn't been part of the earlier discussions with my mom, so naturally, upon seeing the cat, his first question was, "What is that?" I explained the situation to him and emphasized that this poor creature needed to be saved. He then asked me how long we would be saving the cat. And I innocently replied, "Just until he gets better." But wouldn't you know it, whenever my dad asked if the cat was better, I tell him that he was getting close, but he just wasn't quite there yet. And the strangest thing was that year after year went by, and he just was never quite well enough to be sent away. My father always acted like he didn't like Midi. In fact, one day he walked into the house with the Daily Mail and exclaimed, "What is this?" I looked up and I saw that he held out an envelope addressed to Midi. It was from the vet. My dad exclaimed, "So now the cat gets mail?" Well, yes. Yes, he did. And why shouldn't he? He was now a part of our family. He was essentially adopted. And let me add this about my dad. Who was it that was in his truck, out in the neighborhood, looking for the cat when he didn't come home on time? Yes, my father. Midi thus became one of the cherished members of our family. I told people that he acted more like a dog than a cat, especially in the way that he let us pick him up and carry him around. My brother would even sling him around his neck, and Midi didn't seem to mind one bit. Now here's my favorite part of the story. Because once in our home and under our care, Midi began a wonderful transformation. Gone was the rough, thinning fur that he had when I found him, and in its place was a rich, soft coat. He looked like another cat. And his thin body started to fill out too. You could tell he was enjoying his regular meals. And of course it didn't take long for his wounds to heal and the scabs to fall away. Before long, the poor, pathetic-looking creature had been completely transformed. He was healthy, looked great, and was now with a family that loved him. And you know what? Midi felt great, but so did we. The act of working for his restoration, for his salvation, gave us a warm feeling inside. We had witnessed the transforming power of love. So what's the takeaway of all this? It's simple. I believe that God sent Midi to me to be a living object lesson of what he wants to do for each one of us. At first he finds us lost, dirty, hungry for spiritual food. We look terrible. But rather than being upset, his heart is touched by what he sees, and it's his great compassion that moves him to work for our salvation. In fact, the worse we are, the more he wants to help us. And just as I had everything I needed to help Midi, God has everything we need. We need spiritual food, and God gives us the bread of life. We need to be cleaned up, and God says, "I will wash you whiter than snow." Most importantly, my family and I surrounded Midi with love, and the Bible says that God is love. He has all the love you need and so much more. And that's the miracle of this story, the miracle of God's redeeming love. Maybe some of you feel like you've wandered too far from God. Maybe you've done some pretty terrible things. But the great news is, God is longing to transform you, just as my heart went out to Midi. God's heart wants to do something special for you. Friends, if you'd like to learn more about what the Bible teaches about salvation and other important topics, check out the links in the video description, or you can email me at doug@douggarcia.com. Please be sure to like this video, and it would mean a lot if you'd share it on social media. And tell your friends about Journeys of Faith. You can find more stories like this by visiting douggarcia.com. And remember, when you walk with God, you're on a journey of faith.